So obviously I need to reciprocate. I'm so happy to be here specifically to host these amazing friends and builders. And I'm so grateful for Robert for giving me and us this chance, because I know the difficulties of like hosting things like a non-profit for years, and then giving your seat to someone else is an amazingly humble and amazingly supportive act. So I'm so happy and so grateful. Thank you for that. Like, let's applause you first.
You're my sister.
So this is interesting for me to like host this panel, because I've been organizing crypto and blockchain events the last 2 years, and I hosted some of my friends' talks here. Ilias with PlasmaPay was one of the first crypto and blockchain seminars I hosted 2 years ago. And Kayesh was the sponsor of Crypto Week Bali, and we met actually here in one of the SpeakuP Monday, and then I think we kind of convinced him, and it was a success, hopefully, so thank you for that. And Tracy is like one of my passion projects that I've been following like since a while, and it's like I'm speechless to have you here in Bali with us, her DAO. And Theo has been organizing developers meetup, which actually was like, I mean, the way we started was building with S21 with builders, but eventually like to go for like a bigger couch, like you always like kind of like to make some sacrifices and compensate. When there you go, Theo is organizing badass developers meetup. Badass devs. So we are going to attract much more developers, and the existence of having her DAO here at this time like was kind of like whatever you say, like a biggest star alignments ever probably happened. So Andre is a very good friend, and also a regular in our meetups, like a very long time. I would cheer for that too. Thank you, Andre. Thank you for coming. And let's start with you. So who are you? Basically, who are you? To start with, like a couple of minutes of introductions, and like, why did you choose to be a blockchain developer?
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. Thank you to be a host today. It's really a pleasure. So I'm Andrew. I'm actually not start as developer in my career. I started as electricity engineer, but then I switched to outsourcing jobs, and I opened my own outsourcing company. And from step to step, I just came to the blockchain development. So, and I select this technology mostly because it's really exciting. It can change the life of the people, and at the same time, it's a really complex technology. So it's not just like about some trading stuff. It's about to change ways that people right now using the internet.
Hello, everyone. My name is Theo. I work as a software engineer. And my journey into blockchain was actually coincidental. When I graduated, I wanted to go into AI, but I got a freelance job as a blockchain engineer instead. And the money was good, so I never left. It is what it is.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tracy Bowen. Some people call me Annalie because I was a musician back in the day. But I'm the chief instigator, I suppose, of Her DAO. Her DAO is a women-focused developer DAO. We are not exclusive, so all are welcome, but we just focus on women. Our mission is to increase diversity and inclusion in the Web3 space. We give travel scholarships. We run hacker houses. We've got a hacker house at the moment down in Seminyak. Our lovely scholars are here. Woo-woo! And yeah, we basically travel the world entering hackathons, winning a lot of them. And yeah, we just want to create a diverse space because we think diverse projects are what we need in Web3. basically.
Awesome. Go on.
Oh.
My name's Kayesh. I'm the CTO of Jetstar Gaming. My journey through development started, I think, way before university. So I've enjoyed development from the very beginning, but through the course of time, I've been roped into other things like business strategy and actually having to run a business alongside building something. But I love blockchain development now, and part of what we're trying to do is bring the utility of blockchain to everybody. And I think there's all sorts of complications in the space, so we're trying to simplify that and make sure that we can bridge the average user all the way through without them having to worry about seed phrases, wallets, and connection buttons.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ilya. Thank you for coming today. That's a very cool event for crypto and non-crypto people. I came to blockchain development in 2017, but my actually journey into developments is already like 20 years old. So I always try to innovate something, but in the classical development, it's almost impossible. So you go either to the science development, or if you try to build some new startup, usually you just find the new business models and you not innovate anything. So the blockchain seems to me very interesting because you really can somehow challenge in very global problems of the population, of the society, of the privacy, of the financial system, and you can solve it with the blockchain. So we started in 2017 building some new products to simplify the user experience of the blockchain, because as you remember, it was a huge problem to create a wallet, to understand how to work with the private keys and the seed phrase, how to buy and sell Bitcoin, like all this stuff. We try to simplify and build a very cool products. So today we have a Plasma Finance that's a very big DeFi aggregator. And we just launched a Plasma wallet that's actually the EVM compatible wallet that including all DeFi and NFT products. And we just get the first place on Product Hunt last week. Thank you.
So the main objective in this talk, and also like doing a blockchain developers panel with a crowd that is not necessarily crypto and blockchain involved people, is to like get some concepts defined in our daily life terminology, basically, like to give examples. Why do we care about decentralization? What powers does it have over traditional databases? And why do we need to, like, why is it all relevant for us? And also, like, take a little bit more step towards the developer's obscure life, like, because when you're working with the blockchain projects, obviously you don't have that, like, the biggest title working with the Google or any of the corporates that can be. So I would like to start with Ilya this time, to ask, because you are building a DeFi, so what's a blockchain to begin with? How would you define it, and how does it relate to DeFi, and what's the power of decentralization compared to traditional databases?
So you want to start from definition of blockchain?
Yes, give us a definition of blockchain, please.
Let me open Wikipedia. Who knows what is blockchain here? Please raise your hands. Okay, we still need the definition.
50-50, that's good.
Okay. That's good. So actually the blockchain in its like first version, it was just a distributed ledger with some mechanism of confirming the blocks of actions or transactions on this ledger. But currently now, the blockchain have so many types of infrastructure and consensus, and we have a very popular blockchain now who has an Ethereum virtual machine. It's like an operational system on top of blockchain that allow you to run the different applications. We call it smart contracts. And using these smart contracts, you can build an amazing applications just for all the people. So that's currently what's a blockchain and what's the ability of the blockchain for the devs. And what was the second question? Why I come to blockchain and why it's important?
What power does it have compared to centralized database traditions?
If somebody runs its own product on Amazon, probably when you scale your product, your bills also scales to $100,000. And if you do something wrong, or you don't have a policy, privacy policy on your website, they can just shut down your server and shut down all your products, or they just can drop the database on DigitalOcean and also shut down all your product. When you run something on the blockchain using the smart contracts, you don't have this risk or problem that somebody can shut down your application. So that's the first reason of using the blockchain, because your system is sustainable and secured from any third-party risks. Because blockchain never stop. Even if you're following now the Ethereum merge, that's one of the biggest event in the whole crypto space since the beginning, since the Bitcoin, because that's the first big blockchain who just goes from the proof of work to proof of stake consensus mechanism, and it's just happened in one block. And the million of miners lost all their monies and revenues, and now only the people who stake the Ethereum can generate the revenue from the blockchain. And even blockchain become less, how to say, they just burn Ethereum. So its model become more sustainable in the long-term period. So yeah, the first is the security. The second one, and it's also come with the security, is the decentralization, because nobody can say what you can build on the blockchain. You can imagine of any product we can imagine, and we can build it on the blockchain. We only have a limitation now with the speed. That's kind of issue of the blockchain, the speed and sometimes the cost of the building on the blockchain, because the developers, they're super expensive. And the speed of many of the blockchain is not so perfect as we want. For example, if we're building the games and we want everything transact on the blockchain, we need a highly speedy blockchain. And people using Polygon, they're using Solana and some new blockchains. But when you try to speed up the blockchain, you're losing the security and you're losing the stability of this blockchain. That's why if you're using the Solana blockchain, sometimes it just doesn't work. So we as OG don't call it blockchain. It's just a database. But yeah, who cares? People still use it and playing the games on Solana and buying and selling NFTs.
We're going to come to how should we choose a blockchain.
Yeah.
But I want to ask Andre this question this time about this consensus. So Ilya mentioned the resilience against adversaries. This is the main power of building products on chain, obviously. How blockchain, how would you define blockchain to briefly explain that aspect of it, consensus basically? How is it more resilient to this aspect? And obviously, how do you build products around that?
Yeah, for consensus, for me, it's easy one. You just can imagine you have database, this database hosted in different location. And this database owned by no one. It's owned by everyone and no one same time. And to write something to database, you need to have agreement of all participants. How to write this database, what data is wrong, what data is correct. This stuff is called consensus. So how everyone on the network participate with each other to make this network suitable and work at all. And what was the second one? Okay. Our product is some kind of GameFi product. So we bring NFT and FT capabilities to games, mostly for games. And we choose this because we want to provide gamers more freedom to own their own assets. So swords or something like that. And the result of the games can be exchanged to different games as well. So that's why we choose to build on blockchain.
I think this is going to lead to Kayesh eventually. You're aiming to onboard the next billion on Web3 gaming, and like for like gaming not having any Web2 Web 1 version, it's always interactive and it's the easiest thing to monetize and onboard masses. How do you compare the gaming on blockchain compared to like other ones, and what's the essential reason for your choice?
So, okay, it's actually, with gaming, the issue that we see right now is that there's a large volume of games that are trying to build their games directly on chain. This is suitable for certain types of games, so gambling, for example, where you're looking to get proof that the number is actually random and it's verifiably random. It's really useful for games like that, lotteries and so on. But for the games where we're talking about where masses play, so your Candy Crushes, for example, right? These sorts of games, Genshin Impact and all these other ones, have 78 million daily active or monthly active users. There's no blockchain today that's really suitable for that sort of volume. And the type of gaming that we're talking about is the hyper-casual types of games. In this sort of scenario where the blockchain has utility is where Andre is taking it, right? Saying that you can actually begin to own some of these assets. And the question after that becomes, what's the utility of ownership with gaming assets? And that has to go to the portability between different games. So there's a whole discussion that needs to happen inside Web3 where we can start standardizing what we can do with assets going between different types of games. But the bridge that we're trying to build is where we bring Web2 users into Web3 without them having to worry about portability, without them having to worry about what Web3 games are available. Because we're starting with Web2 games. And we're giving people what they want in Web2, but using Web3 to power that. Because we actually turn them into proof-of-work miners. So that's what we're bringing into the space so that we can gradually bring people over.
Okay, in this case, I just want to ask you, Theo, because you gave a really good lecture on interoperability. Can you define blockchain for everyday users? Why? What does it mean, and why do we have an interoperability problem?
So the main problem with interoperability is there's a bunch of solutions. Everybody thinks they have the right solution, and maybe they're right. But how do we bridge assets and cryptocurrency probably between all those different blockchains? And interoperability tries to solve that. But most of the problem with interoperability right now is they solve it using, I'm sorry, this gets a little bit too technical, but they solve it using a two-way peg system where they lock an asset in one chain and probably mint an asset in another chain or probably unlock it in another chain. Essentially what bridges usually do, and right now it's currently not really that safe. There's been a lot of security breaches when it comes to interoperability. So the main use case every day for interoperable blockchains is probably only close to sending assets from the main Ethereum network to probably other chains, because whether we like it or not, every blockchain would have to have a compatibility with Ethereum anyways, because all the assets are there, all the most of the transactions are on Ethereum, and if any new blockchain solution wants to create like a new environment without Ethereum, they're making it from scratch. And that's the only thing that I can think about when it comes to interoperability. For the future, I mean, interoperability, I hope in the future interoperability would be more secure. But from what I've read in all the solutions I've seen right now, it's really only limited to a few things, and the thing about interoperability is there's a bit of centralization in it. If we want to be truly decentralized and interoperable, there's still the weakest link would be still the bridging systems that we're going to have anyway. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's all I can think of in mind about interoperability.
We're gonna get back to that, but like somebody gave an example of like Visa and MasterCard or multi-currency accounts. Like the interoperability basically is a solution to like remove and communicate between two accounts. So we're gonna get back to that, but I want to understand Tracy's point of view now, because you are you associated with a project. You founded her DAO to actually solve a real-life problem for many, and using decentralization for specifically to empower women and to onboard more female builders to this space. How would you define the challenges that were before present for developers, and how do you see decentralization as a solution for that?
I suppose the problem before was that Web3 is very male-dominated, and it's probably not accessible for a lot of people, just a lot of general people. So our mission was to increase diversity and increase inclusion, because we think that that is crucial for the future of Web3 development. I think if you have diverse teams, you'll probably make better decisions, you'll probably be more innovative, and actually you'll probably make more money. So there's like a real business case to diversity as well. It's really just not a woke thing to do. And the thing about decentralization is, at the moment, it's probably more of a promise. You know, we went through a whole kind of like pre-DAO phase because we couldn't really decentralize fully straight away, because we wanted to hold the space for generally women, right? So like we couldn't just do a permissionless group and anybody join and everybody pile in. And I mean, I've seen those things collapse really early anyway. And we wanted to have longevity, and we wanted to get a robust structure before we kind of fully decentralized to everybody. But I think the promise of decentralization is people actually feel energized when they get into a DAO. They feel like they can really have ownership, and they feel that their kind of their opinions and their thoughts and their actions kind of matter. And the whole thing about a DAO is that you can be rewarded, right? So there's a whole reward structure for DAOs, so people can contribute and then hopefully get rewarded. Generally, that's like a token that a DAO has. We don't have a token yet. We actually run our membership by PoAps, and we actually raise money through like sponsorships and stuff like that.
Can you give us the full name of the DAOs and also PoAp for those who don't know about it?
Oh, the decentralized. Okay, so a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. I mean, does everyone know what a DAO is? Right? No? Okay, yeah. I'm here. I mean, it's essentially just a group and organization which lives, it's borderless, it lives on the internet, and it runs most of its operations through smart contracts or on the blockchain. I mean, I'm not even going to go into smart contracts, but it just runs it on the blockchain. So the same way that like an ordinary organization would have a bank account, we have a multi-signature wallet. The same way that like an organization would do, you know, have meetings and have votes and make decisions by voting. People do the voting on chain using the token-based system. I mean, you know, it's pretty similar, basically. And a PoAp is basically just proof of, for us, is proof of participation, and it's proof of membership. But like, you know, it's kind of like an NFT. It's kind of like a badge to just prove that you're a member of something.
Thank you so much. We're going to get back to the essence of DAOs and how it can be leveraged to replace the traditional ways of organization, traditional ways of value generation. But just briefly to understand, why would you choose a DAO? Like,
good question.
What could you?
I'm asking myself the same question right now. Because DAOs are hard. Because you know why? You have to deal with people, right? Because like, first of all, I think DAOs, the first inception of DAOs was that it was almost going to be like an automated system, right? So like automation at the center and people at the fringes. So people wouldn't really have much, you know, intervention in this DAO. How it's actually evolving is that it's become this massive space for coordination, coordination of work and humans. But like, you know, humans are going to human, right? So even if you have these systems, you still have to deal with humans and their foibles and the whole, you know, and that whole thing. So building a DAO is actually not as easy as you think it is. But what was the question? Like, why is a DAO? Why? Yeah. I mean, for me, the greatest thing is creating your own economy. That's what I'm interested in, right? So we could have just been a co-op. I mean, co-ops have flat hierarchies, you know. We could have like a multi-sig bank account, traditional bank account. But like, the thing is, I think you can just go much further with a decentralized organization which lives on the blockchain. Because you can have your own token, you know, you can... People fund their activities through their own token, but, you know, it can also reward people, but it can also give people, you know, that kind of sense of ownership. And, like, it doesn't matter if I'm in London and someone else is in Jakarta, you know, you can basically, you know, still operate on the same level, you know. But, like, talking about creating economies is something that I'm really interested in basically kind of narrowing the economic wealth gap, which is still a promise. I mean, we can talk about this forever, but yeah, I hope.
That's why actually the last couple of weeks, I mean, people are asking why the Crypto Week Bali, it's more that much social impact oriented, and that's why this is an important occasion for us to talk about like the concepts around it, like more technically. But the main reason we cared about social impact was mainly this is a promise, but it is the best promise so far that we have to contribute the social economic transformation, and that's why we want to define the issues collectively here and try to understand what solutions blockchain and crypto offers. So we had a survey in S21 community lately, and we asked what is the blockchain crypto native concept you consider as like the most important factor for any community or society to thrive on social impact basis and as a key in social and economic transformation. So 30% of the participants said trustless consensus, and 33% said decentralization. So this whole thing going to be about more on decentralization. But before that, I want to get back to the consensus and like so we're talking about proof of work, proof of stake. Like, what's the power of these? Like, we just had the Ethereum merge. Can you define, and I'm going to ask the same question to Ilya, can you define the actual difference between proof of work and proof of stake, and why do we even care about this consensus, and what's the power of consensus?
Yeah, so the proof of work is really easier. So it was a first consensus that introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto on the Bitcoin level. It's really simple. You have block. Inside block you have some transaction, and to prove that you can like close this block and give reward, you provide some computational power. Right now it's really crazy computational power, like a lot of ASICs on data center just mining something like by megawatts of electricity. So but its first start, you can just do this by only one computer. It's at all. That simple one, that really understandable by most of people, and that's why Satoshi Nakamoto introduced it. And then the Vitalik Buterin as well grabbed this consensus to the Ethereum. As he explained, at that time the proof of work will be fully understandable. Really, there have no any problem with security. But right now, as we know, the Ethereum switched to the proof of stake. Proof of stake, it's almost the same concept, but instead of providing some power of calculate block, we have special consensus on the blockchain level when you stake some money to able to close block. I just simplify. It's much more complicated internally, but you just instead of power providing money, and if something goes wrong, the network will grab this money for you. So it's like a fee. Proof of stake right now, it's really good started. They provide a really great speed, because in proof of work you cannot have like close block really frequency, because a lot of work can happen and other stuff can happen. In proof of stake you can close blocks like each seconds, and you can fully like adjustable block size. So proof of stake, it's right now probably the most suitable consensus to blockchains.
And Ilya, you are building a bridge, so merge was really exciting for you. What's your thoughts about proof of work, proof of stake, and the consensus mechanism to build products on different chains mainly?
Okay, for me, as a dev, there is no any benefits from proof of stake or proof of work. For me, all the same. It's only the benefits who mine the cryptocurrency with one type consensus or another type of consensus. And also this merge, it just decreased the global like spending of electricity on almost 1%. So it's more like good for all the people in the world than just for the devs. Because from the dev side, we still have the same speed of the blockchain, the same size of the block, the same fees. So everything's the same, but the proof of stake now allow us to move further to the next stage of the development of the Ethereum blockchain, and this stage will be about the sharding, when we can increase the speed of the blockchain. And with increasing the speed, we also can just like increase the speed and bring more applications and more users on the blockchain. That's it. No.
Can I just ask a question to the devs on, well, and openly, right, to everyone, which is with proof of stake, the common criticism is that it opens it up to greater centralization capability because now it's just a question of how many tokens you have in order to be able to control or influence the chain. So I think beyond just devs, and in terms of everybody who has a stake inside the blockchain, what's everyone's opinion or rebuttal to the centralization argument? Given that we know Ethereum was very heavily backed by VCs to begin with, right? So it kind of reflects the traditional monetary system now in terms of token ownership.
Yeah, and also I want to remind you guys like what happened with the sanctions and shutting down the like some IP addresses by the mining companies.
Yeah, who want to answer this question, because I want to be the final one. Just the summarizing.
Theo, you wanna answer?
Well, I frankly agree with that. Proof of stake increases centralization. What answer do you want me to give?
He just wanted the confirmation. He just wanted.
I mean, it's possible.
Censorship resistance. Let's talk about that. How blockchain is censorship resistance, and what aspects is censorship resistance?
Well, the thing that makes blockchain censorship resistant is the KYC is not really built into the blockchain, so everyone, everywhere can create their own wallet. KYC is know your customer, something like that. So anyone from everywhere can create their own wallet and start doing transactions using that wallet, like they can receive or send funds. And because most public blockchains are permissionless, they don't need to be whitelisted. A person doesn't need to be whitelisted to use the blockchain in the first place. And in the end, it becomes near impossible to block everyone, because if everyone is blocked, no one can use it anymore. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say other than that, because yeah, there's no KYC and anyone can transact everywhere and anything.
And maybe we can remind that it's like the wallet's address is not the public key, it's not associated with our real personality, right? That's the main. But I think Ilya has a more elaborate opinion on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a really bad news. The blockchain is centralized.
One type of blockchain is centralized, right?
Okay. Let me prove it. Okay, few levels of centralization. Let's say for the Bitcoin, that's huge big miners who just aggregate all the power. And now we have like 5 or 6 miners who mine all the Bitcoin. So actually, we just sit at one table all together. We can do whatever we want with the Bitcoin. But until it's make us a huge ton of money, we're not gonna do it publicly. But we still agreed on some rules for this game. For this Ethereum, in the proof of work, we had the same situation. We have just like a few pool of miners who mine the whole Ethereum. But we still think that it's super decentralized, it's super safe. And with the proof of stake, we just get thousands of miners, because any wallet with a stake now, and it's like a few thousands of the wallets can validate the transaction, and it's happened randomly. That's why now the period of transaction, it's not 1 second, it's 12 seconds, because it's enough to get the full consensus between the nodes who store the data of Ethereum blockchain. But at the same time, we create another big problem. Now with all these sanctions, what we've got, the Tornado Cash, that's a protocol that built by one of my friends, that get kind of, I don't know how it's called, but some issue with the OFAC in the United States, and SEC also. And the Tornado Cash is a protocol who provide a native privacy on chain. Why we need this protocol? Because actually now all the chain is monitored by the government, and almost like any wallets that's created on the blockchain, some people upstairs know who own this wallet, who own this transaction, and why they made it. So everything about like the security is fine, but about the privacy, and yeah, and when they block the Tornado, they start blocking all other wallets who interact with the Tornado. And there wasn't any reason about the bad transaction, because people use the Tornado Cash to donate some money to other people to pay the salary. Because when you pay the salary, you don't want to know that your employees knows how much money you have. So you use it through the Tornado Cash. And when they block the Tornado Cash, they start blocking all the wallets who interact with this protocol. And not on the blockchain level, but on the level of other protocols, usually the protocols who provided a stable currency, like USDC, that's a Circle. USDT say, no, we don't want to block anyone because that's a Chinese currency. And some other protocols, mostly that based in the United States, they start like blocking people in their wallets for interaction with this protocol. So we broke our privacy and kind of security. Even if we're not doing something bad in the blockchain, we're doing everything right, we can be blocked. And I think that's the next big problem that we need to solve in the blockchain. Because now we have this kind of decentralization, but we still don't have a privacy. if you follow the Vitalik Buterin, he told about the same. So now they're solving this like a privacy problem. So that's why they're creating a special side chains for the Ethereum, like ZK rollups and all this stuff, just to provide people more privacy in what they're doing. And again, if you're using any of the popular blockchain, you're super transparent for the government. So be careful.
Thank you. This is important
Are
for
we on
so
YouTube?
many reasons.
Sorry, can we delete it?
It's on the blockchain.
Yeah, because somebody
Talking
watching
about
us.
privacy with his full face. Perfect. No, it's okay. I mean, yeah, we said many things that's gonna be so wrong at some point. But anyway, so I want to get back to like play to earn, and yeah, you are building a cross-chain product basically. What's the importance of it for mass adoption for you? Like, I mean, I want to understand building a cross-chain product, basically keeping that in mind at this discussion.
So we try to abstract the chain from our users. So today, everything that's happening for us is Web 2.5, right? So we are centralized, as we already know. So we provide bridges ourselves, which allow users to interact with interfaces they're comfortable with. So through your mobile apps and through regular websites, you'll be able to interact with our group of servers that then negotiate with the appropriate chain. So from a privacy perspective, by the way, and, you know, I'm not meant to say it, but look at Monero. So, like that.
They blocked everywhere. Even though if you use an on-chain like wallet, like a native wallet from Monero, then you can use it. But then you can't like
atomic swaps. Use atomic swaps.
Yeah, but it still will be hard then to validate that it's your money and it's not come from criminals.
Oh, no, KYC is a whole different pain.
If you cash out them from the Monero.
Yeah, we can have a separate chat.
Yeah.
But in terms of cross-chain today, the reason why it's so valuable and so interesting is because you don't know which horse to back. So the good thing about standards is there's so many to choose from, right? That's the problem that we're currently facing. So all of our technology allows us to work on currently EVM-compatible chains. We think Ethereum is going to be the leading horse, but it's limited today by its fees. So everybody is being pushed to use other side chains, which have significantly reduced fees. But from a gaming perspective, I think what you will see over at least the short term is most gamers, because you're talking about billions of users, they will all be going through bridges. They'll all be going through Web 2 gateways, and the only things you'll really see minted to chain is when somebody says, right, I want to extract, and I want to go to another game, and this is the reason why I'm doing it. So for that to happen, there'll have to be cooperation between large publishers or even indie publishers to make that work. So one of the things that we're trying to work with game devs on is standardizing across chains what a good NFT model would look like for gaming assets, with renting and leasing and properties and regeneration and all that sort of stuff. So for us, the value in cross-chain is actually more about getting more developers together and saying that this is the standard we're going to agree on so that our games will all work with each other and there is value in going from one game to another. That's where we see the value today.
Thank you. Recently, I mean, one of the best definition of blockchain I heard so far is like moving property rights, because that's why it's relevant for everybody without having a central authority. When you think about it as like property rights, like then everything is changing, like owning your asset, owning your content and everything, then you can build on top of it. Cross-chain obviously is key to onboard masses. But what is the power of like play-to-earn, gamified projects and the products, and why people who are not really gamers need to understand and maybe like hear a little bit about it?
For me, like play to earn, it's almost not exist stuff. It's most of Ponzi schemes. But sometimes Like if we're talking about maybe really poor countries, this poor country can make money off of just playing this game, and it's just provide for them ability to live life a little bit better. That probably all stuff for play to earn, because like play to earn, you always should understand that sometimes you need money that someone put in and less amount of money put out. Most play to earn game, they just put out more money than they own inside the game.
And how does it work with like, when you apply for a grant? I want to understand that because Andre is like obtained like I don't know how many grants so far. Like how is it? How can you get a grant like with a gamified project also? Like what's the criteria? How do you go from a scratch? Hello. All good. Save the first. How would you define that process?
Yeah, for grant it's as well. It's a really clear solution. So we not provide GameFi project. We bring a Web3 capability into Web2 games. So we provide more like infrastructure. That means chains. So we talked with Near and Human Guild. Human Guild, we received grant from Human Guild. Human Guild, it's GameFi like arm of the Near, and they're really interested to bring more developers. And as they have more developers, then they have more games. And for them, it's really important to have like a really mature infrastructure that we provide. And for almost all chains, you can receive grants if you provide some value for this chain. And for this chain value, most like attracting users or attracting developers that attract users.
And maybe what's the power of guilds? Like guilds specifically, like because it's a concept that is not like that we are not familiar if you're not really in crypto and blockchain. But guilds actually changing the economy and the social economic structure already in Southeast Asia, like with what happened in Philippines and Axie Infinity. What's the power of that side of crypto gaming?
Yeah, for crypto gaming, like play to earn, first you need pay to earn something. And this can be like expensive, like $500, $1,000. That's why Guild came to this scene. Guild is just mostly big companies. They have money. They purchase some items and then provide the gamers to rent these items. With different fee structure. It can be like daily fee. It can be like fee from the some money that player earn. And this open like really good ecosystem for game studios as well, because game studios right now can receive like initial funding from the guilds as well, and guilds like back receive this item with discount, and this provide benefits to the users. Users right now do not need to like spend a lot of money to just try this game.
So like it removes the entry point for many. That's amazing, right? Okay, going back to the interoperability and the cross-chain products, what's the difficulty of and how do you choose to how do you choose to tackle these problems in an open source development environment? Basically, what's the advantages? What are the challenges?
When it comes to open source development, the main advantage is if anyone wants to check whether the code is doing what it's supposed to do, they can just open the code on GitHub or something, and they can just check it for themselves. But I don't really get how it ties into interoperability. Can you?
No, I mean, like, because obviously, if you are working with in an open source environment, you are working with a lot of people that you never get to talk that much and like build it co-evolves. Like you're basically contributing to a product that's developed by many, or can be at some point. When building like cross-chain products, you have like an advantage to get more developers to work with you. Like, what's the complexity and the advantages of working in that kind of an environment?
Oh, I think I'm starting to begin to understand the question, but it's a very complicated thing for me actually to answer, but I'm going to try my best. The thing about open source development is there needs to be the right incentives in place for developers around the world to want to contribute to your product. Like the previous company I worked on, our product is open source. We are the product was a decentralized biomedical company, but you wouldn't be surprised to hear that no one really contributed to our project, because in the end, the only beneficiaries of whether or not someone would develop that project will be my company, the one who owns it. It's different when it comes to open source tools. Like, for example, who here is a software engineer? Okay. Who here knows JavaScript? Oh, great. Okay, about half, let's just say. So the thing about JavaScript is people like to say that that JavaScript developers can't be taken seriously, because every so often there'll be new frameworks, new somethings, you know. Oh, I figured out a new way how to center a div, guys. Let's go. I mean, like, it's so weird because everyone has their own solutions and everyone's putting it out, and then everyone thinks that their solution is also the best. And the difference between those kind of projects and the ones that I'm talking about, the blockchain decentralized ones, is when you're talking about these tools that you can contribute to, it will benefit the greater developer environment anyways. I'm trying to think about an overlap between JavaScript, the thing I mentioned, and blockchain. Oh, let's just say Ethers. So there's this library, like software library, that you can use called Ethers.js. So Ethers.js is a way for programmers to call functions on the Ethereum blockchain using JavaScript. And of course, there's a lot of contributors to that project, because the easier it is to use Ethers, the faster everyone who uses Ethers can go, faster the development can be, and it can be very beneficial for all of us. So that's the main difference between open source projects that are useful and that are not useful. The main thing to remember is how many people would benefit from it. And from what I've seen, most blockchain projects, even though they're open source, it can never reach that kind of usefulness, maybe not all, because most of the open source that they do is just for their customers can verify whether or not their code is really doing what they're supposed to do. That's it.
Yes, thank you. So this is, we said democratizing the moving property rights, and now the emphasis on building not only blockchain products that are just technical, but shaping the new business models that distributes and democratizes the profits also. So what do you see, how do you see the decentralized autonomous organizations in shaping the business models with all the existing issues of it, like how to fairly compensate and like how to keep the accounting and everything, but how does it revolutionizes like organization doing a business together in an organization?
If I understand the question, I mean, I think DAOs are a great... Oh, sorry. I'm speaking into the mic now. I think actually DAOs can teach traditional organizations a lot, and I think traditional organizations have a lot to learn from them. In terms of organization, you know, like a DAO's operations are supposed to be transparent, right? So, you know, the bank or the treasury is supposed to be transparent. That's something that is, I mean, traditional organizations could learn from DAOs with transparency. But are you talking to me about, you want me to explain DAOs? Doing business with... Okay, so doing business in a decentralized organization with other DAOs or with traditional companies? So, I mean, for us in a DAO, to be honest with you, we actually... say, for example, we got like a grant, right? And we had a token grant, right? But actually, we didn't do a lot of business with those tokens. We had to off-ramp onto fiat, right? Because we have to interact with the real world a lot. So internally, we can like create reward structures for our contributors, and we can create programs, token-based programs. But when we interact with the real world, it's still very difficult to, you know, there's businesses and corporations that take crypto, but not a lot, right? So when I go and enter into a commercial contract, when I want to hire a venue, I'm probably going to pay fiat, right? You know, so actually the business operations in a DAO is actually not that different from a normal organization at this stage, because the rest of the world does not really transact in crypto yet, to be honest with you. And like the only real kind of difference is maybe like the reward structures inside the DAO and the compensation structures. But yeah, it's still, you know, for me, Web3 is still pretty clunky, to be honest with you. It really isn't frictionless. Like, we've got like so much work to do, to be honest with you. Because even in terms of the language, to the general population, you know, when you start talking about smart contracts, when you start you know, using all these acronyms, it's like this, you know, when you try and explain. And then when I try and explain that like people can use a cryptocurrency to do this, like people say, why? Why am I going to use this instead of fiat? Is it more frictionless than fiat? And the answer actually right now is no, right? Because say, for example, we need to reimburse our scholars' expenses, right? And we're going to use some obscure wrapped token that they now have to take to India, right? And try and do this on an Indian exchange, which is actually probably illegal for them. Do you know what I mean? And so we hit these barriers all the time, right? And I don't know, you know, we just have a long, long way to go, to be honest with you. So it's not really... I really don't see there's much difference from a traditional organization, to be honest with you, because we always have to interact with the real world that always deals in fiat.
So I always say that, like, when we are talking about blockchain products, like, it's eventually there's this kind of effort to fix the human weaknesses so it goes flawless, like, so that we cannot trick each other. We cannot steal when it's under our hands and everything. How do you actually leverage these technologies to make business or organizational processes more flawless?
Is there something else?
So, not wanting to sound unpopular, but these processes already exist. And I think, Melissa, you've heard me say this plenty of times, right? Like, we've already got models to protect businesses and to protect the flow of money. It's called auditing. It's a very manual process today. It costs to have it done. What blockchain can do, and the utility there, is to kind of automate away a lot of that headache. But we are a long way away from organizations seeing the utility for that sort of activity, largely because there's a lot of vested interest in the way things are currently running, right? So you're talking about taking away money management from people that manage all the money, right? So there's a few steps to get before that will actually happen. And I think that only once the broader public understands and feels the utility of what we're talking about will you get that sort of adoption. So going back to this point, which he's challenged with, saying that I have my token, it's only useful inside my universe in terms of giving voting rights or whatever. That's largely because if you had a regular business, the sort of things you'd be talking about are shares, right? So those shares are only useful within people of that company until at which point other people want to get engaged, and then you list. So it's really important we have a corollary for every single type of thing we try to bring to market, because all processes already exist, and the real question is, how are we making it better? If it's making it any worse or adding even an iota of friction,
people will always choose convenience, and they will just not use it.
Anyone, anything to add to it? So I want to make it also relevant to what we are building here in Bali, what we want to build, because eventually the main focus of what we want to do here, like with all the crypto and blockchain meetups and programs and seminars and everything, is to eventually give back to the community and empower the communities and reduce the access gap, obviously, as you mentioned. What do you think about why it's? How do you see the Southeast Asia, and what brought you here, and what's the biggest potential to actually work on the sector and be here around today? You're probably the longest leader here.
Maybe. So, for the Asia right now, in Asia, a lot of young people, really long, compared to some USA or Europe, here a huge amount of young people. These young people is talented, and they just need to have a normal work. And that's why, because of that, I think a lot of outsourcing work from the Europe, maybe Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, comes to Asia, mostly for India and Vietnam as well. Because a lot of people, these people want to learn something new. They're not limited by choices. Because so I have a friend that lived along. He's from Belarus, as me. He lived along about 2 years in Berlin, and he say a really wise phrase. He say a lot of German people want to be like auto mechanics just because they understand. My friend, my dad was auto mechanic. My granddad was auto mechanic. I'm going to be as well repairing automobiles because it's going to be here forever. For this IT stuff, it just appears 10 years ago, and who knows what's going to be in 10 years. This is just a mindset of most people in Europe. And for Asia, it's fully different. Most of Asia countries have no really huge past. They was independent maybe half 100 years ago or something like that. And people have more flexible mindset, and they want to be developers. They want to make money because developers provide a normal amount of money compared to local jobs. That I think Bali and all neighborhoods can have a really huge potential in future.
So the reason I am in Southeast Asia is because I'm born here. I'm Indonesian, so I've been here my entire life. And why I think Southeast Asia will be a good place for blockchain developers is, well, remember earlier when I said I got into blockchain because the money was good? Well, essentially that's how it is. And even though some developers, I know local developers from my hometown, Jakarta, and some people from Bali, and the number of highly experienced, really good developers are, year by year, there are more of them. And comparing the salaries to, well, let's not go too far to the USA or Europe. Let's just say Singapore. You hire a developer in Bali or Jakarta compared to someone in Singapore. I mean, it'll be the cost would be way less than you were supposed to hire them in Singapore. So what I'm trying to say is, because the money is really good and lots of people are interested in becoming developers because of, well, you can work from anywhere, everywhere, and remote work culture is getting more and more accepted in Indonesia. I would say that I would be surprised if Indonesia don't become one of the developer hubs in at least Southeast Asia. That's what I'm trying to say. And yeah, there is no reason for anyone in Indonesia right now to not at least learn the basics of programming. Most people, well, maybe because I come from an affluent neighborhood maybe, but most people that I know from my neighborhood, their children already know how to program in JavaScript sometimes, and most of them are already fluent in English. And it's it's a breeding ground for talent. That's what I'm trying to say. All right.
Let's announce it, because Theo is now organizing developers meetup, connecting with Bali-based developers, which is super important if you're talking in any sense of Silicon Valley and like building hackathons and everything. So he's going to, you're going to see and hear his name a lot more in the future, I think.
Thank you for the shout out. Well, I don't want to say my, I want to say it's ours. But anyway, the group that I'm organizing, Badass Devs Bali, it's recursive. A developer joke. It's recursive. So Badass Devs Bali, right now we're in the phase of consolidation. So we're trying to find like-minded people who are, who wants, like her? Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. But people who wants to learn, who wants to teach, and people who have like high skill level. Most of the people in the group right now are people that I know personally. But if anyone's really interested to probably meet some new devs or probably learn how to be a dev, you're open to join our group anytime.
What am I saying again? What?
Southeast Asia and Bali. Like, well, how did you kind of like?
How did I get here? Yeah.
And how was your hacker house yesterday?
Our hacker house was fabulous. We just had a bunch of women there. It was like an unconference style, because the last thing anyone needs is another conference. And we basically just helped each other. People told us what their needs were, basically, what projects they were working on, and how, you know, the space could help them, you know. So people left energized, inspired, with team members, you know, great stuff. So we're going to carry that on this week. But like, I actually, you know, kind of classed Bali as my kind of second home when I got here in the pandemic. So like, I got a business visa. Like as soon as I could leave England, I was gone. There was like a little window before they shut down England again, but I was out of there by then. And I stayed here for 6 months, and this place became my home. I connected with social impact projects here, and I thought Web3 could really, you know, be of use there. And like, we created a whole plan actually to turn Indonesia into more of a tech hub, because the young people here, I think they're directed towards tourism, right? And when there was no tourism in the pandemic, that was like a perfect time to kind of like go, listen, we have this thing, we can teach you. And so we were really excited about that. So we still want to enact that plan and help young Indonesians to become coders.
Oh, yeah.
She's going to ask you another question. Okay. So we're here for commercial reasons in terms of South Asia. It is the fastest growing region for youth, as has been mentioned before, but also from a mobile device consumer perspective. So you will see the largest volume of mobile phones adopted and used inside this region. In fact, it will outstrip every other region altogether. So just in terms of the latent market that we're looking at, you know, our total accessible market just going across 3 countries in South Asia. So once you take India, Indonesia, and the Philippines, we've got 1 billion target users right in there. So for us, it's a massive market potential in just inside here. And to go back to the point that has been spoken about, learning this technology or any sort of development technology and getting into this space is massively, massively valuable for people in this region. I can't express to you how disappointed I am with the volume of content creators versus developers as a ratio, right? I would far prefer the inverse in terms of what's available, because the value addition to what you'll see to product and to creation and innovation will be that much greater. So
YouTube's great, but as we've seen, burns more power than Bitcoin right now. Right? So if we can actually move people over, then I think we'll all stand to benefit much more in the longer term.
What was the question?
Actually,
Why are you here?
effective listening. Next. So Ilya has been also organizing, giving education to a lot of people the last 2 years with the Russian community, but specifically keeping that, contributing that community center in Ubud generally. So, but we are happy that now you're here. How do you see the importance of Bali and the potential of Southeast Asia, especially for crypto and blockchain development?
Yeah, about the Bali in general, yeah, I'm contributing a lot for the development of the local community, mostly like Russian speakers. So people come all over the world to the Bali because that's more comfortable lifestyle. Also, like you living in all time zones, so you work in almost 24 hours. Yeah, and actually, yeah, and the community here is very unique. If you, I don't know, have been in United States, like New York, maybe San Francisco, like it's hard to meet people there because you need like to schedule the time, go in the traffic and anywhere. And in Bali, it's just like a few places where you can meet all the community of the people who engage in blockchain. That's very valuable. And also people always come to Bali, even like for months, for a few months, and then leave. So this community is growing very fast. So that's cool. In terms of Indonesia in general and the population of Indonesia, it's actually the biggest market for the blockchain. But from my perspective of view, now the most of developing countries, they're looking at the blockchain as a like money-making machine. So they only heard from all the projects that's even from like GameFi, come and earn a lot of money and change your life. So people who is less educated in all these countries, they get this trick. Like they go to this application and spend their money. Without educating these people, they will be broken someday, because that's really a huge gambling machine on top of this technology layer that we have. And people from these developing countries, they like using this gambling machine because they don't need to ask any permission. They can cash in, cash out. So all these benefits of having the blockchain, now we're realizing in this like GameFi industry that focusing on the developing countries. So my contribution is mostly for educating people, because if we open this second layer of opportunities that you can build on the blockchain as a developer, or you can move some kind of business to the blockchain and make it innovative. That's very important for business owners, company owners, for the developers, developing companies, understand what this ability they have on the blockchain, and use it in their like normal Web2 industry. And then if we bring the education to the people, if we teach them how to develop the new application using all this technology, we bring a huge impact on the developing countries. They will be any more developing countries. They will be developed. Yeah, and even in our like a DeFi very complicated system, we've seen on the number 4 place, it's Indonesian people. Like it's United States, Russia, Germany, and Indonesia. But they've never promoted projects in Indonesia. So that's also, yeah, interesting statistics.
Amazing. So this is really like because the emphasis we are also putting on communities in like this whole everybody's at their own risk investing, buying that token and everything, trying to develop, like learn a skill, and even after you are a founder, like it's no way possible to cover everything in finance and also in technology. So it went together. Like it's a very hard thing to do. So what we were doing with S21 and with many other communities here, like trying to learn from each other. And like you're now on a tour to like do it like with different countries and like learn from each other and also facilitate other people's journey who want to be in the Web3 space, and specifically for people, the underrepresented groups, let's say. So that's also amazing. I want to understand what your point of view in terms of like what is the challenges now. What do we still expect it to grow from the community or the blockchain people? What are the challenges, and how do we see the development in the 5-10 years, maybe?
Okay, so for the community right now, I think main problem for community to understand that community, all member to community should not just grab some information to community, but give back something. Because of this like hype of trading something, making easy money, a lot of people just trying to use community to grab money, to scam and do some other stuff. So it's not good from middle and long term. Like community growing. And the second one?
Yeah, what's your expectation?
So my expectation is that community right now, blockchain, it's like, it was before just like early technology. Right now, this technology, it's mature technology. A lot of people understand what is blockchain, what it exactly is. Right now, a lot of regulation happens as well on the blockchain level. So, and this as well will affect communities. Like community, my expectation is that community will be like more educated, community will be like more scam resistant, and community will grow as the technology grows.
My expectation in the next 5 to 10 years, well, it's hard to picture that far, considering how young I am. But, well, hopefully...
Get off my lawn.
What support you need? Like, from any community, from any founders, from any builders, like, what would make a change in your life?
What will make a change in my life? Or let's say in my career would be, well, if probably in the next 5 years, if the Indonesian government will be more open to like entrepreneurship in probably in Indonesia as a whole, more specifically like digital entrepreneurship, like building products or making like blockchain products too. If it were ever to go that way, I think Indonesia will be in a very good place. Let's not say 10 years, probably in the next 5 years it will be in a very good place. But I have to say that I'm not really confident in my own government. But anyway, that's what I hope at least. The next thing that it would be great is if the thing that you said, the incubator thing, the incubator, like community like incubators and everything, if those kind of things exist in I'm talking about locally, like Bali, because usually it only exists in Jakarta. It will also be beneficial and would make sense for more people to, let's say, have their home base here, like one of their offices here. And I don't think there's much else because honestly, I don't know. It's really far away, 5 to 10 years. I can just hope and see if it becomes any better.
We can formulate it in a more like a developers, founders, like someone who is building and incubating projects every day, let's say. Like what would change in our lives, and like how do we include communities, and like how to support each other more effectively, and the expectations to 5 to 10 years?
I mean, first and foremost, I think, a major thing is access to resources. As women, as underrepresented people in the space, women only get somewhere like 2% of investment dollars. I mean, people keep, saying this figure, but it actually is pretty outrageous that if there were 100 people in a room, 98 people who got the funding would be men. right? And that's not because like they're smarter or their ideas are better or whatever. You know, it's just because most of the decision makers are men, right? And people who look like them. So it's like we need to change that. But like I'm not in the business of changing like people. Like I can only change myself, right? And we can only, you know, change other women's opportunities. So the reason HerDAO really exists is like, okay, we are a diverse dev pipeline shop, but the subversive context of it all is to actually create women founders who become successful, who can then invest in other women. And by women investing in other women is the only real way I see of structurally changing the fact that women get almost zero investment dollars, right? And then when we can do that, then you know, maybe we can just get resources for ourselves, because it's like, you know, if I can, I try and extract as many resources from people as I can, right? But that's only one part of the story. I think we can all do a bit better, and we can actually invest in each other. Another thing is like this hashtag of we're all gonna make it, right? Everybody says we're all gonna make it, right? But are we really, you know, like, no, because it's like, it's not gonna happen by accident, right? It's gonna happen intentionally. So you have people like HerDAO, like the Phoenix Guild, like, you know, Theo's going to be getting on the program as well. This is intentional work, because if we leave it to, you know, the anarcho-capitalists or whoever, you know, the people who come into blockchain to make loads of money, it's literally just going to continue and actually be worse than the system that we've got already, because, you know, all of that inequity is going to be baked in. Right? And when you have that baked into automation, I mean, good luck changing that. You know, there's black box technology, there's everything. So, you know, my job really is to intervene into this like new digital revolution that, like, if people don't intervene, it's just it's a bit of a dystopia, really. So, you know, keeping positive, you know, because I'm an optimist. This is basically my job to intervene, to extract resources, to create resources, and to, you know, create this dream, make this a reality of we're all going to make it, this egalitarian Web3 future that we keep banging on about.
Cheers. Yeah, look, I think blockchain has a marketing problem, right? And quite literally. You can't market it on Facebook or Google, right? So we actually have a marketing problem. But we also have, in broader view, it's looked upon as a way today to be a sea full of pirates and bandits. People have run in to just try and make a stack of cash and create Ponzi schemes in an unregulated environment. So there's a whole load of people that have used this structure and then got people to mistakenly adopt the cypherpunk manifesto saying, hey, this is what we should be like. There are some great ideals in there, but I think we have to be realistic. We have structures, we have laws, we have compliance, KYC. It all exists for a reason. So until we can all get behind a proper structure, people will see us as pirates. And we will not get mass adoption in the way we want it. So I think we have to reframe the marketing around what it is we're trying to build. So we can talk about having DeFi platforms that support trading, but all the popular ones KYC you. All your on-ramps and off-ramps are KYC'd. But you need to, right? Yeah. So you need to exist today. So I think it's important that from a community perspective, we all get on board with the fact that we have to be compliant, and we should be pushing each other to be compliant. It'll make more robust products. It'll bring a better brand to everything we're building. And I think my expectations, if you were to ask me in the next 3 to 5 years, well, that we would all get on board this compliance bandwagon, right? Because if we do it, we'll get the support of the broader government set that are going to roll out their CDBCs, and we're going to have to find a way to integrate with those. So We don't all want to be blocked and sanctioned, right? Because it makes business difficult.
Except me.
Yeah.
He's working actively towards that.
I will have my own blockchain.
But I think this is what we need to navigate towards. And I think this is what we need to encourage new developers, new builders. You have to understand that we work within a world that has rules. And yes, we can challenge the rules, but we have to have a reason to challenge them, and we have to make it viable for people to be safe. Yeah. Because all the stuff that we're dealing with is a result of Ponzi schemes. Play to earn, the economics was not sound, as we've seen. So innocent people have been subjected to people extracting their cash because it wasn't regulated properly. So I think this is the sort of thing that we need to be pushing for.
I really wonder what Ilya is going to say after that.
It was brilliant finishing of our conversation. I don't know what can I add. But yeah, I hope that in 10 years...
Keep the juicy part for the dinner, please.
Yes. In 10 years, like what? The price of Bitcoin... what we can expect. Guess. I don't know. I expect like 1 billion people join the Web3. And I expect we will still have this decentralization, the privacy that at least we have now. Maybe something better. We will see a lot of new Ethereum killer, and they will die. Yeah. And yeah, I hope that like a lot of also Web2 projects and companies, like even the Facebook, Instagram, they all try to move partly on the Web3, and they will utilize this technology for their own. So we all feel like every user of Facebook will feel how like impacting the Web3 on their life. Even now you can, as you know, like use in Instagram your NFTs. That's already like kind of adoption, and it's happened like in just a few years. Like 2 years ago, we had nothing, and now the Facebook and Instagram has its own NFT server. So that's cool. So what we will have in 5 or 10 years is hard to imagine. Maybe we will live in another world. So yeah. Hope not metaverse.
Okay, we have like maybe 3 minutes if we want any questions, maybe like.
So if we grab that mic there.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll.
Okay.
Or I have 50 more questions. I can go on.
Should take it back? Yeah, back around. Yeah, right. So if you give Ayu the mic, yeah, cool. Good. Yeah. If you give it to Ayu, grab a seat in here.
Okay, who's Cosmo? All right.
Yeah, she'll bring the mic around. Yeah. Very long way. Yeah, you need a long lead.
Check, check. Yeah. Hey, Tracy, awesome. I mean, awesome everybody, but glad to have you here, Tracy, because you brought a really interesting point. And we've talked about that point before over a glass of wine, but now you brought it into light. And before I go into that point, actually, I want to make a quick comment that you were kind of sad when you described the state of what you're doing, and I want to commend you and congratulate you on actually paving the way for future generations. Because your work will, like, maybe it's hard now because you have to take your money into fiat, but in the future, it's like future generations are going to live online. They are going to live on the blockchain. We still live in a real world, you know? Future generations are going to live on the blockchain, and they are going to look at you, at your DAO, to see what can actually be done. And if it's hard to do now, for them it's going to be way easier, and hopefully it's going to be a very good business model for them to implement. Now, about that business model, because you mentioned that you work with PoAps and that your whole governance system is based on PoAps, which is an idea that we discussed earlier over a glass of wine. And you know, at first it was like kind of like harder to implement. So again, I firstly congratulate you for already implementing that. And because we ourselves are potentially thinking about using this to bring the Bali community on chain, I'm curious to hear maybe not exactly, but to give a broad overview of how your system actually functions with PoApps, of how it functions with the scholarship system, and how it functions with generating funds or like getting grants and distributing those. So like, because I feel like it's a very good system that you have figured out. So I would want it to basically explain it to us, to the people at home, to the entire world perhaps.
Well, whoa, because it's like we've just started our PoAp system. We're working with a company called STP for our on-chain governance, where we can actually use our PoAp system. But for now, it's in a really basic stage of when we onboard our members, then like we basically give them a PoAp, right? But like then, you know, that will give them special voting rights, and then we've created like tiers of membership, and then when you get to a certain tier of membership, then you can be like a governor, because we have governors. So like basically every member of our DAO should be or is a contributor. So you cannot hang out on the Discord and be a member, right? Like you know, like people think they're members, they're not, right? But like it looks good, but yeah. So that's basically where we are now, and we're actually devising a system with STP where we can do on-chain voting via Twitter. I mean, we need to talk because, like, you know, we're actually building some stuff, but we're actually in the middle of testing it now. So, like, we have not finished our system, people, but like, we are doing some exciting things with it, and we've got some exciting plans. So it's like we will definitely keep you abreast of our plans. But I think in the next 2 weeks, you're going to see us roll out more of our PoAp system.
Interesting. So how will it function basically with the scholarships? Because I heard about these scholarships, but I'm not exactly sure how they work, so maybe...
I mean, the scholarships right now, like everybody who can receive a scholarship now has to be an onboarded member. We basically just work with sponsorship from projects at the moment. So it's again quite open for discussion how we involve the PoAp system with the scholars. But like as I said, we're still very, very much at early stages, and we haven't really done much with the scholar program yet. You know, we still really work at a very basic stage of just providing travel scholarships in a very normal way, really, to scholars, and the PoAps just represent membership at the moment.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, any other question? All right. Thank you so much. Plasma Pay, Plasma Finance, Jetstar, her DAO, Theo and his baddest devs, Meetup, and Atarius. You're going to hear these names and these developers in the future, because they're actually there to protect your investment in many products. So thank you so much, and thank you for giving me a chance to host an S21 directed event.
So Mel, there's one thing which I'd love you to do. So I'm going to say one thing real quick, but then I would love you, either someone here, including yourself, to kind of like wrap us up. Maybe something, because you've been interviewing everybody tonight. You've been holding space beautifully for everybody tonight. Round of applause for Melissa, everybody. Right? It's not easy. You've done it well, right? It would be really nice for you maybe to leave us with some parting words, and maybe give you a minute while you can have a think about what they are, apart from finishing off acknowledging all of your wonderful panel. And then while you're thinking about what that is, I'm going to let people know. So next week, who we have, Matt Adams. So Matt Adams Global, a life and business strategist, advisor to global CEOs and celebrities. Now, I know one of his clients who's a very, 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 very famous guy, but I cannot tell you who it is, right? He's an MBA from Harvard, a BA from Princeton, and he's a meditation and energy master. But here's the thing. He is, I believe, the highest if I can use the word ranked, within the Buddhist meditation system in Southeast Asia, if not the world, who is essentially a Westerner. So in other words, you've got a master of business and a master of meditation. Next week, Matt Adams. So go to Matt Adams Global, and you'll see exactly who I'm talking about. Sister Mel, back to you.
So I'm supposed to give a summary of our action plans, and so okay, let's. So as S21, so far we cared about the blockchain and crypto technology and hosting these things, obviously for shared resources and everything. But again, my journey to crypto and blockchain is to use technology to solve actual problems. And S21 stands for Satoshi 21 million. So we take it as a guidance with technology to solve real people's problems. For access gap, for instance, there are still tons of countries, places where women or some groups cannot own assets, or a lot of unbanked population, which has the highest ratio among women and underdeveloped countries. Or if you're on the business level, there are so many issues due to top-down governance. We think we are living in a democratic society, but the main value generation organizations are not operating as a democratic system. So using blockchain and Web3 as the core of any businesses gives us that chance to provide solutions, choose it, the compliance and not compliance, but if we use this, the cryptocurrencies and the blockchain technology to mainly solve the societal problems, I think it's going to empower a lot of individuals and a lot of organizations, therefore stronger governments and countries also with the higher GDPs. So I think it's important to highlight what we are trying to do here while we are talking about social impact, technology, all together in the same Crypto Week Bali, and why we personally care about it, and why developers, these brilliant minds, are important, the most important thing when we are talking about fair redistribution of wealth or better products, scam-resistant blockchain and cryptocurrency world. That's why I care about it, and thank you for giving me the chance to have this session.
All right, I don't know. Oh, are we out? Yeah, we and.